I think that this whole business, when we're deciding based on race, at least as a factor, that sort of assumes that all people of a certain race are sort of monolithic, that minorities are monolithic. And I know at least for Asian Americans, sort of the way that we're perceived is hardworking, no charisma, no character. And you see that in those in the Harvard case, you'll see that that's how they view Asian American students. They see us sort of as bland and sort of lacking character. And I think that that's sort of what happens to all minority groups when you view us first and foremost as a certain race, and then just look at individual characteristics that we have later. I think we should flip that around and view our individual characteristics regardless of what race we are first and foremost. And I think that's the most appropriate way to do this. Because there, again, you can look at recommendation letters. You can look at, there's so many other things that you can look at. And I know that Bhumi was mentioning sort of this holistic admissions process. In that process, you have so much data. You have access to your parents' income, for instance. If you might need financial aid, you have access to information about the school district that you grew up in. And I think that information actually gives you knowledge of the student situation and sort of what advantages or disadvantages that you might have in life. Because any student of any race at an underfunded school district won't necessarily have the same opportunities that somebody at a very highly funded school district. And so by looking at what opportunities they had available and how they were able to make the most of that is not something that requires you to look at race. When you can actually pinpoint that the experiences that a student might have had through other factors that don't involve race.
That, my friend, is what you call based. that's the very definition of it. That's what it looks like when you stand up to the ultra woke leftist permanent political class and you tell them in your best Gandalf, you shall not pass. You have no power here. That was absolutely brilliant. And as of this brand new sunny day, what that fellow just said there is officially the law of the land. Greetings, everyone. It is Live Stream Friday. I am your host for this glorious, beautiful live stream Friday. I'm Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you have not already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. We are live on both Rumble and YouTube. Super chats and super stickers are up. Send me your questions. I will answer them in due course. Today, as I'm sure you're all feeling it by now, today is the beginning not just of a new day, it's the beginning of a new era. An era where the sweltering sewers of systemic racism have finally been overcome. For decades, patriots across the nation have attempted to dismantle the systemic racism that has infested our nation, an explicit, overt, vile racism that blatantly discriminated against American citizens based solely on the color of their skin. For decades, we sought to establish a rule of law that finally realized the American ideal, that every citizen will now be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Exactly what you just heard. And yet, over and over and over and over again, we were thwarted. We were thwarted by an incessant systemic racism that pervaded the halls of our governments, our education systems, our hiring practices, and most especially our courts. Time and time again, these institutions upheld and enforced policies that imposed discriminatory prejudice, bigotry, and systemic inequality in hiring practices, in college acceptance standards, all throughout the nation. And as of yesterday, thanks to the Trumpian Supreme Court, it all came crashing down. The age of systemic racism is officially and finally over, and the Democrats are utterly melting down over this. You're going to love this. Remember, gang, super chats are up, super stickers are up. Send me your questions. I will answer them in due course. And before you do anything else, make sure to click on that link below and visit our good friends over at Home Title Lock. Gang, I got to admit, I was shocked when I was shown just how easy it was to access the deed to my house, and not just access it, but actually change it. The deed to your home is the only document that proves you own it. But the problem is that the deeds to all our homes are now online, and criminals are free to find your deed, forge your signature, refile as the new owner of your home, take tons of loans out using your home's equity, and then stick you with all the debt. But that's where our good friends over at Home Title Lock come in. Gang, they're simply amazing. Home Title Lock gives you the peace of mind that the deed to your home is absolutely and completely protected. Click on that link below right now. Use promo code TurleyTalks, and all you got to do is just enter your address for your no-obligation home title scan to see if you're already a victim of deed theft. That's a $100 value, absolutely and totally free with my promo code TurleyTalks. Again, don't wait for the worst to happen, only to regret that you didn't do something about it when you could have. Do what I've done and countless patriots have done. Click on that link below right now and secure your home today. All right, gang. So let's dive right in here. The fallout for the Supreme Court's striking down of affirmative action continued all throughout the night last night. Here's a sample of some of the more notable unhinged meltdowns.
This is a bleak day for equity, diversity, and inclusion, especially for racial minorities. Back in 1971, when I applied to Yale College, I knew that Yale was interested in having me as a qualified candidate apply as an African American. Today, the Supreme Court is sending a negative message to racial minorities who are applying to colleges that they're going to have another obstacle of the many obstacles that they face relative to college and university admissions.
Well, it's a very sad day. And I agree with the student who said that I shouldn't be surprised, but I am shocked by the fact that in the majority opinion, they basically whitewash the Constitution in a way that basically says that we were right all along. The 14th Amendment, the clause, the Equal Protection Clause, will guarantee us a colorblind society. We all know that when slavery ended, Jim Crow began to take root. And now the most effective tool, an affirmative tool to eliminate barriers, a tool that would give us opportunity, is now weakened. So yes, the students will have to write perhaps essays that describe how this has been a long struggle. I see this as a setback, not just for minorities. Of course, it's a setback for minorities. It's also a setback for white women as well and others who have used these effective tools to remedy past discrimination based on gender.
It still feels like a gut punch. That's the kind of language I'm hearing from students that I've been talking to this morning, that they're devastated, they're distressed, not really for themselves, but more for the generations of students coming up behind them. For many of the minority students, not just Black students, but for Latino students, Native American students, Native Hawaiian students who come from communities that have historically been very underrepresented at Harvard and schools like Harvard. And certainly the vast majority of students are just worried that Harvard is going to look a bit more like it did many decades ago when the school was much more explicitly barring access, not just to minorities, but also to women. And so, you know, there's nerves right now about the campus that those students, those kids have come to love and celebrate, a school that has been very open about the fact that it cherishes diversity, it cherishes that kind of learning and that kind of access, and what they're going to do to maintain that culture going forward. There's a bit of a kind of a grieving right now. And what are we going to do now is the major question.
They're so pathetic. They're literally so pathetic. They are so utterly ridiculous. The irony here, the irony is that it's precisely these far left woke radicals that want to turn the clock back. That's what makes these people so utterly repulsive. These radical, woke, cultural Marxist leftists are the ones who want a return to segregation. It's actually being called neo-segregation. That's what it's called, this process. And it involves the supposedly voluntary racial segregation of students aided by college institutions into racially exclusive housing and common spaces, orientation programs, and graduations. In other words, if you're of a particular race, you're not allowed in. You're not allowed in because of your genetics. That's what these far left lunatics are arguing for. The radical left, particularly on college campuses, has more and more been insisting on actually going back and deliberately segregating the campus along racial lines, but now in accordance with their own cultural Marxist critical racist terms. So in a recent study, 42% of 173 universities surveyed offered segregated residences. You heard that right. You cannot live in certain dorms if you're a race. 46% offered segregated, racially segregated orientation programs. That's right. You can't attend certain racially segregated orientation programs on 46% of our campuses based on your race, and 72% hosted racially segregated graduation ceremonies. You heard that right. Remember, there's the reverse discrimination in that if you're a particular race, you're not invited to those graduation ceremonies. That's happening on 72% of the surveyed college campuses. This is actually we are winding back the segregationist clock, but it's leftists, it's woke liberals, it's those freaks that you just saw interviewed and pushed there. Those are the ones who want to go back to pre-1960s conditions, but it's on their cultural Marxist conditions. They want this tribalist, neo-segregationist social structure, and then they have the gall to turn around and accuse patriots who want to be colorblind of going back to those conditions. It's beyond repulsive. And yet, I'm just getting warmed up. Yet, here's the even more delicious irony in all of that. The more tribalist and neo-segregationist the left gets, the more it unravels, the more divided it gets. This overturning of affirmative action is a case in point in that, because who, more than any other demographic, wanted to end affirmative action, particularly when it came to college entrance standards? Who wanted to get rid of it more than anyone else? Let me hear it. You know it. Asians. Asians are the ones more than any other demographic that wanted to bring an end to affirmative action, to liberal, woke affirmative action standards. And they did it. Asians did it that by bringing these cases to the courts. You live by cultural Marxism, you die by it. You want to institute tribalist segregationist social norms? Well, they're going to come back and they're going to crush you. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. We saw one of cultural Marxism's supposed victim groups turn on cultural Marxists in the name of their own racial interests. They felt, rightly so, unfairly marginalized by woke liberal policies, and they turned against those woke liberal policies. And so the woke left today is officially unraveling. They are unhinged. They're coming unhinged right before our very eyes. One of my favorites has got to be Elizabeth Warren. Did you see this from the single most absurdly repulsive queen of affirmative action? The fake Native American Elizabeth Warren. Pocahontas herself, right? Who, don't forget, as part of her accolades, her academic accolades, this is who Massachusetts puts in over and over again as their senator. This is who Massachusetts citizens want representing them. This is She put as part of her accolades, she was the first woman of color to be appointed to Harvard School of Law's faculty. This just, again, this shows you how insane Harvard's gotten. Yes, Pocahontas herself spoke out against the ruling. Sorry, I'm just having too much fun here. Here's what she wrote, quote, "An extremist Supreme Court has once again reversed decades of settled law." Oh, really? The science is settled. The science is settled. Oh, really? Settled law? I guess it's not too settled law, is it? They've reversed decades of so-called settled law, rolling back the march towards racial justice led by Pocahontas herself. Rolled back the march against racial justice and narrowed educational opportunity for all. I won't stop fighting for young people with big dreams who deserve an equal chance to pursue their future. I mean, these people are so self-unaware. It's beyond, there are no words, but the blowback she got on Twitter is hilarious. Here's from Never Tweet. Elizabeth Warren fights for racial justice with no reservation. Womp. With no reservation. That was too good. Carl Charles wrote, Elizabeth Warren claimed she was Native American for like 20 years. Harvard Law School touted her as a diversity hire in the 90s. Sit down, Liz. Larry O'Connor, fake Native Americans hit hardest by Supreme Court decision. Steve Days, well-to-do white woman who lied to wrongfully appropriate a minority status, apparently has thoughts on racial justice. Simmer down, Pocahontas, and take another drag off the peace pipe. I mean, these are rough, gang. These are rough. But actually, the best is yet to come. Wait until you see this. This one is going to absolutely make your day. And it's an important teaching moment for the liberal left. I think they have to, they're going to have to reflect on this teaching moment. And boy, we're going to give it to them big. But gang, many of you have been kind enough to notice that I've lost a couple of pounds. Oh my heavens. I fill out the entire picture. Look at me. Yes, I've lost a couple of pounds of late, over 60 pounds. Thank you for noticing. I've tried everything under the sun, gang, to lose weight. Nothing worked until I discovered the fantastic nutrition coaching over at PhD Weight Loss. PhD Weight Loss is 100% over-the-phone nutrition and behavior coaching program. I simply could not possibly recommended enough. I was able to eat delicious meals all while reaching my weight loss goals in record time. And it was frankly one of the easiest things I ever did. I can't believe it took me this long to give them a call. They completely take out all of the guesswork behind what, when, and how much to eat. They make the process painless, simple, and as easy as possible. Dr. Ashley Lucas has helped thousands achieve their health goals over the last 15 years. And guess what, gang? Guess what? You're next. This is your moment. Do it just like I did, gang. Change your life today by clicking on that link below, or just give them a call at 864-644-1900. Tell them Dr. Steve sent you, and join me and thousands of other patriots who are taking control of our health. Click on that link below or go to my PhDweightloss.com. It's, gang, they are simply the best. All right, here's my all-time favorite self-own ever. This is coming from the likes of Democrat activist Erica Marsh. Take a look at this tweet. Today's Supreme Court decision is a direct attack on Black people. No Black person will be able to succeed in a merit-based system. Which is exactly why affirmative action-based programs were needed. Today's decision is a travesty. Now, obviously, this white liberal is getting savaged for this tweet, rightly so. Right? Here's just a sample of some. The Hodge twins. This is the most racist shit ever. That's right. Black people will never succeed in a society based on merit. That's what you heard. And the Hodge twins gave it right back to her. Girl, this is about as racist as it gets. Greg Price, by the power of white girl, I'm offended on your behalf. Bobby Starbuck, you think you're a white savior, but you're just a freaking white supremacist, Erica. Dang. But my favorite is from Kim Klacik, who ran for House of Representatives in Baltimore. Awesome. Erica with a KKK in her spelling. Absolutely brilliant. Now, Erica KKK did her best, bless her little racist heart. She did her best to try to dig herself out of her condescending Democratic hole. This is what she tweeted out as a follow-up. Allow me to clarify this tweet, which is being manipulated. It's being manipulated for propaganda and misinformation by Ultra MAGA. The intention of my tweet here, let me race explain it for you. The intention of my tweet is to highlight that prior to affirmative action, okay, this is what I really meant. Prior to affirmative action, there existed a supposedly merit-based system for Black individuals to gain admission to colleges, but these institutions, they employed racial profiling to prevent Black individuals from attending under the guise of this merit system. You see, it all makes sense now. So I just want to emphasize that my statement in no way suggests that Black individuals are less intelligent than other people of other races. Please don't hurt me. Nice try, Erica. Nice try, Erica KKK. Nice try. Robbie Starbuck responded best. Nobody manipulated your tweet, Erica. It's still up there for all to see. You said no Black person will be able to succeed in a merit-based system. Dude, that's white supremacist talk, Erica. It sure seems like the Democratic Party has not strayed very far from their racist roots. That's right. When are we going to tear down the real racist system out there, the real racist institution out there, which is, of course, the Democratic Party? Cancel that. The irony in all of this is not only is Erica demonstrating for all to see her pathetically condescending racist assumptions. That's what woke leftist liberalism is degenerated into, right? It's an ideology that's shattered into cultural Marxist tribalist sentiments that end up in condescending racism. Not only is she demonstrating that, but as it turns out, her original tweet could not possibly be more wrong. And we got the data on it. We've got studies on this from decades of studies. She's peddling patent nonsense. The Stanford economist Thomas Sowell, who I know many of you know, he's a hero to so many of us. Thomas Sowell should be a hero to all of us, but if you don't know him, he's documented how two different Black populations within the United States, within the same supposed systemic racist system, he's documented how two different Black populations consistently exemplify fundamentally different outcomes for decades. What Sowell has done, and he's not alone, Walter Williams has done the same, he and a number of others, he's published economic, educational, and family data on West Indies Blacks. So we're talking immigrants from Barbados, Jamaica, and the like. And what he finds is, or he compares data on West Indies Blacks with more general Black Americans. And so you take both these populations, right? They're both Black. People like Erica would not be able to tell them apart. So you got two racially identical groups, West Indies Blacks and more general American Blacks, both living under the exact same supposed racist system. And yet all the data shows radically discrepant outcomes. So while they're both equally subjected to whatever level of racism exists, Thomas Sowell's studies found that particularly second-generation West Indian Blacks living in the same cities as Black Americans in general, they were nearly 60%, 58% to be precise, 58% they had 58% more in income on average. Columbia sociologist Van Tran, he's done work on this as well. He argues that you find neighborhoods of Black Americans right next to neighborhoods of West Indian Blacks. So they're both equally separated from white neighborhoods and the like. Erica couldn't tell the difference. Both deal with the same police, right? Both deal with the same social conditions. They're both subjected to the same schools, same school system, same employment opportunities, you name it. But the outcomes could not possibly be more discrepant. Residents from West Indian neighborhoods have a rate of high school graduation, college enrollment, professional occupations that are significantly higher than the general American Black population. And the crime in their neighborhoods is significantly lower. So there's no obvious systemic racism at work here in determining their outcomes. So what's the difference? What accounts for these radically discrepant outcomes if it's not Democrat Erica's systemic racism? Well, again, as scholars such as Thomas Sowell and Walter Williams have extensively documented, Black families that are intact don't experience any of these social or economic pathologies. The poverty rate among Blacks in general is 37%. But if they're married and working, it's only 8%. And it's been that way for decades. And the poverty rate among Blacks who have both mother and father working is only 5%. It's actually lower than the white poverty rate. So married Blacks are not experiencing these social and economic pathologies. The fundamental problem, as both Sowell and Williams and others have pointed out, the fundamental problem is that there is a 75% illegitimacy rate among the Black population. It wasn't always that way. In 1938, it was 11%. It's lower than the white illegitimacy rate today. In 1938, it was 11%. In 1960, it was only 22%. Only 22% of Black kids lived in a single female-headed parent household. Today, it's over 70%. And the reason why that's so serious is that a kid, it doesn't matter if he's Black or white, any kid raised without a dad is 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crimes, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. What's happened is that the war on poverty in the 60s, initiated and maintained and enforced almost exclusively by the Democratic Party, by the likes of Erica. What Democrats did is they promised young Black women that if they dropped out of school and got pregnant and didn't get married, then they'd get free cash, free food stamps, free housing, free childcare. And if they had 2 kids, they double their benefits. If they had 3 kids, they tripled. Star Parker, again, one of my heroes. She was part of the welfare system until she emancipated herself from that. And she talks of purposely getting pregnant back then, going down to the welfare office, getting the check for the new baby set up, and then she would go out and she would abort the baby, but still collect the checks for the next couple of years. And so as a result of this insane system, illegitimacy rates across the board, by the way, it's not just Blacks, but it's hit Blacks in particularly hard. But the illegitimacy rate among Blacks has skyrocketed 300%. It's gone from 25% in 1965 to 75% today. And again, this isn't liberal or conservative. The Brookings Institute, which is liberal, and the Heritage Foundation, which is conservative, both agree on this. The collapse of the family is the single worst systemic problem facing our nation today in terms of its deleterious effects on children and their socialization. Walter Williams said it best. He said, you want to stay out of poverty, do 4 things. Okay, it has nothing to do with affirmative action. It's got nothing to do with liberal Democrats or anything. You want to stay out of poverty, do 4 things. Graduate from high school. Don't have children before you get married. Take any job you can get and stay out of the criminal justice system. You do those 4 things, you're not going to be poor. You don't have to worry. Poverty has been eliminated if you just do those 4 things. We don't need condescending, racist sentiments from white savior wannabes like Erica to tell anyone what's needed to overcome social and educational hardships. We know what needs to be done. But here's the problem. It gets even worse. We get even worse. We know how to solve this. You've got to restore the family. But here's the question. How do you restore the family when Democrats have destroyed it? They've destroyed it institutionally with the welfare system, and now they're destroying it ideologically with their woke insanity. Not even knowing what a freaking woman is. And arguing that if you do not publicly confess that a man can get pregnant, you need to be fired from your job. How do we restore the family when Democrats have destroyed it? So all of this is to say, my dear friends, affirmative action, rest in peace. Your days of systemic racism are officially over. And ironically, it was a once loyal Democrat constituent, the Asian American, that guaranteed and ended up effecting your demise. Over to you, gang. Over to you. As Josh, our moderator, puts together your questions for me. Remember, we got our super chats up, super stickers up. Make sure to click on that link below. Find out how you can pay off your mortgage in just 5 to 7 years on your current income and accumulate significant wealth to build your own parallel economy. The elites have lawyers and consultants who spend all day finding loopholes and secrets to save their wealth, but you've got a fellow patriot who's here to do that for you. You need to click on that link below and watch the video with my friend Michael Lush, founder and CEO of Replace Your University. He's about to reveal the bulletproof financial blueprint that will change your life forever. But beware, this is not your typical financial advice. It's a daring, unconventional approach that challenges everything you thought you knew about money. And are you ready to embrace methods Americans have traditionally used to pay off their homes quickly before big finance and the government got involved? Click on that link below to join the revolution and discover the truth that'll set you free. But be warned, once you see the light, there's no turning back. All right, gang, over to you. Josh, what questions do we got, if any? Mitchell, good to see you, my friend. What do you think the Supreme Court ruling? The Supreme Court has ultimate authority on. What do you think of this? Oh, yes. Also, how do you think the climate change pizza cut will affect our food production? Two phenomenal questions. All right. So I'm still reading the opinions of the Supreme Court striking down North Carolina's gerrymandering. I don't know the answer to that one yet. As I understand it, it's not as bad as we think. North Carolina is still going to be able to more or less have the electoral map that they want, but they're going to have to nuance it better, or they're going to have to be careful of how they justify it or that kind of thing. So I'm going to have to catch up on that one before I render an opinion on that. So thank you. The climate change pizza cut. I mean, again, you live by wokeism, you die by it. I mean, if you're going to live in these woke urban leftist cities like New York, there's nothing you can do. San Francisco, there's nothing you can do. They're going the way of Pompeii. They're just imploding under their own ash at this point. They're just absurd. They're just insane. What's really key is to make sure that urban areas, cosmopolitan areas in red states don't do this. And this is a big thing that red state governors are starting to do. And I want to see more of them step up to the plate. But they're beginning to enforce on and insist on city councils that they have to comply with the same rules as the rest of the state. So they're not going to be able to pull off any of their ridiculous shenanigans. They have to fund their police. They have to do all this kind of stuff that red states do. They have to implement red state policy within their municipalities. And if not, then the state can take over city council. So if you're in a blue city inside a blue state, what are you going to do? How it's going to affect food production, I'm not sure. I mean, it's not doing very well in the Netherlands, that's for sure. Just ask the farmers they are now the number one political party there. Yeah, I just think it's going to be you're going to see a continued demise of blue states and a continued rise of reds. red states. I would say regions, but because again, like we've talked about it, if there were a civil war to break out, the first thing that would go would be red states and blue states. That wouldn't be happening. It would be red regions versus blue regions, and blue regions are scattered about, and they're virtually all surrounded by red regions. Red regions just literally, they just lock together and would be able to have this a very, very impressive alliance that would be able to, blockade any kind of, blue patch that you see across the country. If red counties could kind of stand up, push for county autonomy in their blue states legally, hopefully get the Supreme Court to step in, the 6-3 conservative majority. That way they could probably sequester themselves from this insanity. But as it stands right now, blue states are going to fulfill their insane woke mandate, and they're going to continue to degenerate right before our very eyes in all kinds of ways, in all kinds of social ways. There you go, Mitchell. Thanks for that. Thanks for your continued support. You're awesome. Thank you. Gal Palval, thank you for all your positive takes. I need to hear the world lens you provide. Oh, I very appreciate it. I'm confused on why SCOTUS didn't extend the decision to the military. Why the Supreme Court support affirmative action there? Great question. Again, I'm still catching up on that. Sorry, guys, you're stumping me today. I'm still catching up on that one. I saw that as well. And there was also, by the way, I should throw it in. There was also a really awesome religious liberty ruling on the same day, which is huge, especially with vax mandates. That's going to be gigantic. Although I think vax mandates are gone; they're dead now. So unpopular, even among Democrats now with RFK. But yeah, I'm going to have to see what's going on with that and get some of the distinctions and the clarifications there for why the decision did not extend to the military. We'll have to see. Frank, thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the gift. Very appreciated. Shane, the Dems are just angry that their $10 billion race hustle pet project has just gotten the running water cut off. I love it. Yes, the grievance industry, like the SPLC, right? The Southern Poverty Law Center. The grievance industry Shane is absolutely right on that. The grievance, and this is being openly written about, even in liberal publications. Because again, remember, people like Bill Maher and Piers Morgan, they don't like the racial grievance industry. They're not really into that. So even on the left, it's coming out. Organizations like the SPLC and the like, they have turned the racial grievance industry into a multi-billion-dollar industry, and you nailed it there. It's a gravy train. That's why grievance politics will never end. Reparations will never solve anything. All reparations are all the grievance politics are, on all said and done, is just there to get to make an elite super rich champagne socialist just by intimidating or suing or through government programs. Again, this is why from day one I told you, the whole Ukraine thing, you name it, it's all boondoggles. It's all there to make an elite very, very wealthy, and I think we're all finding that out. Excellent, Shane. Great point. David, help save Canada, please. Yes, David. I gotta keep track of what's been going on with Canada. You should be having an election relatively soon, don't you? Because you have the split parliament. You only get 2 years generally with that. Pierre Poilievre is doing great. I love what Pierre's doing. I think he's riding the coattails of a surging populism. The great news that scholars have pointed out is, even though it tends to be relatively quiet populism, Canadian populism is surging. It is growing by leaps and bounds, actually largely because the Christian population demographically, because conservative Christians there are having kids. The Christian population is growing by leaps and bounds as well. Now, I know that's being paralleled by a mass immigration and the like. And I know there's a lot of difficulties there. And you're having a hard time bringing together, say, like Albertan or Saskatchewan populism with Quebec populism. They can actually be opposites and all that's hard to unite it like we were able to do here. California Patriots are just as united as New York Patriots as Texas Patriots, right? So it's harder in Canada, given the provincial politics and identities there. But it is growing. It is growing by leaps and bounds. So stay faithful. Keep praying, and hopefully the Freedom Convoy was just the beginning of what can be Canada's future. So I'm with you. I know it's really frustrating right now with Soy Boy in there. Greg, thank you, sir, for the gift. Very kind of you. Thank you guys all for these gifts. You're very kind for supporting us. Charles, my friend, Dr. Steve, we need to cut it out with pointing out leftist hypocrisy, leftist tears, worrying about seating a bad precedent, etc. The leftist Marcus neocon never worry about what we think. Let's keep winning. Yeah, no, I absolutely. I'm with you 1,000%, Charles. That's why I actually, as you guys could probably figure out, I'm not a big fan of channels that like point out leftist hypocrisy. Well, we all know they're hypocrites. They're liars. Of course, they've embraced a full-blown contradiction. For heaven's sakes. I mean, they say there's no difference between men and women, and then they turn around and blame men specifically for being prone to patriarchy. Well, which is it? You can't have both, for gosh sake. Turn around and say men can be pregnant. I mean, come on, which is what? What are you talking about? So, they of course they're going to be hypocritical. And you're absolutely right. Leftist, Marxist, neocons are just part of the permanent political class. Neocons and neolibs are part of the permanent political class. They don't care what your party is. They don't care what your ideology is, just as long as the United States is the center of the universe. Well, I shouldn't even say the United States. Washington, D.C., their power games is at the center of the universe, economically, politically, militarily. They don't care about anything else. They'll jump ship on parties. They'll jump ship on ideologies. They don't care. They just happen to be caught up in woke Marxist leftism, just because that's the du jour ideology of the aristocracy, the permanent political class. So, yeah, absolutely right. No, we need to look forward. We know we're winning. The entire world, 90% of the world, is moving in our direction. Eurasia, Eastern Europe, Sub-Saharan Africa, the whole of Northern Africa and the Middle East, all of Asia, Southeast Asia, most of Latin America. It's all, and then 80% of the land mass in the United States. It's probably going to be the same in Canada as well, which is red for us, red, in Canada, conservatives blue. It's all moving in the right wing direction, the patriot direction. There's no stopping it. They're just frustrating it. And so what I try to do is just stay focused on those trends. And with your help, Charles, we keep doing that. God bless, man. Kyle, Dr. Turley, I'm African-American, U.S. man who is going to be going to aviation school to become a pilot. God bless you, Kyle. Awesome. That's amazing, actually. I'm truly excited about it, but I don't want to be a diversity hire. I'll go towards merit. And Kyle, it sounds like you will be. I want to be one of your first passengers. That's awesome, Kyle. That's amazing. I've always been fascinated by aviation. I got to admit, I've never done it, but I've always been I remember Rush Limbaugh was a huge aviation fan as well. But I don't ever think he got his pilot license. You're gonna be amazing, Kyle. Kyle, you're the future, man. This diversity hire stuff is the past. It's just gonna take a while to get on to the ash heap of history. But you're gonna be amazing, Kyle. God bless you. That's awesome. More Kyle, yeah. Work towards the merit, yeah. No problem. We know what you're talking about. You are the man. We'll show some, get some training on meritorious typing or something like that. You're awesome. God bless, Kyle. Thank you for that. Spannon, imagine if Hillary got those 3 Supreme Court picks. Yes, don't forget that. Don't forget that, Ben Shapiro. And all the never Trumpers in 2016, even Ted Cruz, who refused to endorse him. Don't forget that, all you Ron DeSantis fans. And again, I love Ron DeSantis. I have no problem. I'm a Trump guy all the way, but I love, right? I got my bobblehead right here. I'm a Trump guy all the way, but I love Ron DeSantis. But don't forget that, DeSantis fans who are all celebrating this 6-3 conservative Supreme Court decision. This was Trump's Supreme Court that did. They overturned Roe v. Wade. They're overturning affirmative action. It was awesome. So, Spandon, sorry to interrupt there. Yes, imagine if Hillary got those three Supreme Court picks. Every woke case decision is being decided 6-3, even on student loans. Sotomayor and KBJ are radicals. Couldn't agree with you more. And we would have seen 6-3 decisions going in their favor had so many Republicans gotten their way establishment Republicans gotten their way in 2016. Let's not forget that. Randy, the Great Society social programs did this. They did. And it's a tragedy. And it is. It's a tragedy. This whole, Marvin Olasky wrote the book Tragedy of American Compassion, right? Published in the 1990s. I actually heard him do a lecture on it. It was fascinating. It's a tragedy of American compassion. The moment the government tried to take over what faith, family, and freedom was working towards eradicating, faith, family, and freedom eradicates poverty. We've got the data on it. Faith, family, and freedom eradicates. And in 1964, is it 65? It all got destroyed, and we suddenly got a permanent 13% underclass, bought and paid for by tax dollars, and vote 115% Democrat. What do we got? More. Bridget, Denise, we need school choice. Once we have school choice, everything changes. I agree. And we're already the majority. I think we're at 27, 28 states now where school choice is the law of the land. So we're de facto there, even among some blue states, which is fascinating. But if the Supreme Court rules for it across the board, or if it just gets instituted as a national policy, that's one thing I think President Trump dropped the ball on. He did promise with Betsy DeVos that he was going to institute a 50-state across the board school choice program. Once that's there, once we break the teachers' unions, it's pretty much done. That's it. I mean, the old Democrat administrative state unravels just in terms of programs and policies. We still have the administrative state, deep state to unravel in terms of the intelligence agencies. But once it's you see school choice and the teachers unions taken out, pretty much the whole thing unravels at that point, together with everything else that's happening. Couldn't agree with you more, Bridget. What do we got next, Tibby? Where the people's voice is not heard, there will be revolution. I love it. The world teacher, aka Benjamin Creed, most profound cover-up ever. Where the people's voice is not heard, there will be revolution. Love it. Absolutely love it, Toby. Mitchell, what do you think of China building the military base near us? I got to catch up on that one too. Are you talking? I don't know which one you're talking about, but I mean, I could talk about it more broadly. So China is obviously becoming one of, if not the major world power by 2050. There's just no way around that. It's a numbers game. We can't compete with 1.4 billion people. Keep in mind when we say the 0.4, that's bigger than the United States. When we say the 0.4, that's bigger than the United States and Canada combined, more or less, right? I mean, that's gigantic. Okay, 1.4 billion people. It's a numbers game. They're growing economically, and now they're growing militarily. Now, historically speaking, China does not solve problems militarily. We do. Okay, neocons do, but China doesn't. And that's a big mistake we tend to make in our analysis of things. We tend to project onto China John Bolton neocon tendencies, but they don't exemplify that. They haven't fought a war literally, in what, 100 years, 50 years, 50 years since the Communist Party. I guess Korea, you got some hot action there, but outside of that, they generally try to resolve issues diplomatically and economically. That is the China way. Now they can bully. They can definitely bully, and they can definitely push around. Just ask Japan. I hear it all the time from my Japanese family, how much China bullies, but then Japan pivots and starts offering their own alternative to the Belt and Road Initiative, which is very, very successful and limits China economically and politically in certain areas. So China is going to be militarily very powerful. They're going to build bases that, protect their interests. We've already seen it in Djibouti and the like. So that's going to happen. That's inevitable. As long as the United States is militarily powerful, which we will remain, no matter how much the left is trying to destroy us from within, we will remain economically and militarily powerful. We'll always be multipolar, and we'll always be able to kind of balance power each other out. But that's just the wave of the future. There's no stopping it. China is going to be the if not the major world power by 2050. There's just no way around that. And so that's why Russia is pivoting towards China, Sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. They're all, even Japan to a certain extent, they're all pivoting towards China, not necessarily to allow China to rule, but to put themselves in very strong positions economically. And then they still, many, Saudi Arabia, Middle East, they still, and Japan, of course, still draw from the United States militarily to offer some kind of geopolitical balance of power there. So they're benefiting from China economically more and more, while still benefiting from the United States militarily. And that'll hopefully keep a relatively stable balance of power. But right now we're seeing it's multipolar world. There's no way around it. We're not a unipolar world anymore. America doesn't get to tell the world what to do anymore. Just those days are over. I know. Try telling that to the neocons and neolibs and the Lindsey Grahams and the idiots like that. But eventually they'll exit. What do we got next? Rumble chat. I can't, let's see, Majovi 2010 supporter. Let's see, our racist, oh, there we go. Sorry, I didn't see where it started. Are racist DEI corporate programs the next target? Absolutely. And it was, I didn't want to go too far over in the live stream. I was thinking of, in my notes today, of going in that direction. Check out I have an interview later on today with Ross Gibbons on BlackRock backing off on DEI and SEG programs. Yes, this is the next thing to go. Once affirmative action is gone, DEI and SEG are the next things to go, because they're extensions of affirmative action. Just as affirmative action discriminates on the basis of race, so DEI and SEG discriminate on the basis of ideology, overt, blatant ideology, and that's going to come back to haunt them as well. So, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Spandon, I see Ron DeSantis campaigners act exactly like Democrats who are fabricating crimes. Do you think he was ever MAGA or just a pretender to get elected? I don't know. I don't know him personally, but he ran an amazingly successful governorship, first term governorship. Now he has to be careful that he doesn't get Christied, right? Christie had a horrific second term as governor, because he started to think about running for president and all that sort of stuff. And people back home will turn on you if you don't, if they feel like they put you back in office for them, and then they feel like you've abandoned them. So I don't know. He had an amazingly successful anti-woke, pro-police, pro-law enforcement administration tenure, first term. And that's really those are the two things. If you want to blow out massive, tsunami election, focus on those two things, because that's got about 75% support. Be anti-woke and pro-police, anti-woke, pro-law enforcement, anti-woke, anti-crime. You do that, you're gonna crush the competition. That's what DeSantis did. No, I think it's his advisors. He's got horrific. Again, to me, his campaign's impossible. It's impossible. How do you run as the anti-establishment candidate with establishment support? How do you run as the populist candidate getting supported by the very establishment that provoked populism in the first place? It's impossible. It's impossible. It's a contradiction. That's why he can't get past 14% anymore. He's just imploding. So no, I mean, I have no problem thinking he's always been MAGA, but he's just got really bad advisors, and it's this advisory class that are inextricably linked with the donors. The donors bring with them advisors. So a donor will give you, a few mil, but you got to take his advisors, because the advisors make their money off the donor. and they get the money through the candidate. So it's kind of almost like it's literally like a money laundering system of some kind. It's really crazy. So I just think he's just got the establishment is coming in, the Karl Roves are coming in, and they're destroying him. Basically, it's their days are over, and they just need to go away. Next, Todd, super sticker. Thank you, sir. Very, very, very kind. Harry, Dr. Z, any thoughts on the GOP's chances on winning back the U.S. Senate in 2024? Manchin's West Virginia. Yeah, we'll see. I haven't been following it too much. I mean, we'll have to see how the electoral map shapes up. Manchin is definitely on course to lose if he decides to run again. He may enter the presidential race as an independent. There's still talk of that. He could be the dark horse to upset the Democrats. So we'll have to see. I mean, just the days of Manchin's are basically over. He's a Jurassic hangover. West Virginia votes 70% Republican. There's 70% MAGA country. Why the hell do they keep putting in a pro Chuck Schumer Democrat? It's insane. But yeah, he's a good old boy West Virginian. I know some of the most conservative, patriot-based West Virginians on the planet who years ago were telling me, no, Joe Manchin's a good man. He'll be a good senator. When he was originally running for senator, I was like, you're going to vote for this guy who's going to be with Harry. Back then it was Harry Reid. A vote for this guy is a vote for Harry Reid, don't you? But all politics is local in that sense. So anyway, so we'll see how it shapes up, but too early for me on determining what the Senate's could be. But West Virginia definitely should turn red. Todd, what do you make of all the apartments and storage facilities going up to cities or near it and call them smart cities or 15-minute or near it? Call them smart cities or 15-minute. Okay, well, I could tell. I mean, I know a bit about the 15-minute. I don't know about the apartments and storage facilities. So again, if you're dealing with a blue city in a blue state, you're just going to have to deal with the latest woke absurdities, right? You're going to have to eat bad pizza. You're gonna have to get rid of your gas stoves. You're just gonna have to deal with their insanity. There's just no way around it. Now, if you're talking about 15-minute cities, smart cities, these linear cities, I think you're talking about where everything you need is within a 15-minute walk. You don't even have to, and so forth. We'll see. Saudi Arabia is trying it now. What is it called? The NEOM, NEOM. They have plans for 2030 of launching this $1 trillion city, which would be kind of your first model 15-minute city. We'll see. I mean, I mean, in Saudi Arabia, it ain't going to be that woke. Okay. So you're not going to have to deal with the wokeness, but you may have to deal with the Big Brother 1984 crap. So we'll have to see. We'll just have to see how they plan themselves out. I think we're all very nervous about it because WEF is pushing it and so forth. So rightly so. But again, if you're seeing like ultra conservative countries like Saudi Arabia pushing it, again, you may be dealing with some totalitarian elements there, but you're not going to be dealing with woke elements. And nothing is more odious to me than wokeness. I just think wokeness is fundamentally anti-human. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how they play out. I'm just going to have to reserve judgment. Generally speaking, if the WEF wants it, I don't want it. Right. So that's just going to be my default intuitive sense on that. Lord Niblick, thank you for addressing the ESG socialist climate lies. Going to enjoy the fresh air this 4th. Thank God for you, brother, and thank God for you, Lord Niblick. Thank you, sir, very much. Gal Palval, SCOTUS on a roll. They just ruled web designer can deny services to same-sex couples. Big win for religious freedom. I was waiting for that. I was wondering, should I wait before I do the live stream? Because I knew they had a huge religious liberties case coming down the pike. So again, I'm wondering, was it a 6-3 or 5-4? I mean, this is just absolutely amazing. This is like, again, we predicted Trump's lasting legacy was going to be the Supreme Court. It was going to be the court system as a whole, because he transformed, if I recall, it's around 40% of the court. But they, again, you never know who you're putting in some of these circuit courts and appeals courts. They could be losers. They can turn out to be losers. But these guys are gems. 5, 4, 6, 3 gems. It's absolutely amazing. God bless Donald Trump. God bless Donald Trump. Yeah, I'm back. Lapswat. I'm African American. Must point out, you must also address the old boy network legacies. Have enough steps to correct election integrity issues. Okay, old boy network legacy. I'm not sure what's up with that. I'm not sure what. I mean, I just don't know what to address. Have enough steps to correct election integrity issues. For the most part, I think so. We'll see. I'm not confident enough to say yes. It seems like the GOP has finally figured out that they're going to have to ballot harvest, and they have an opportunity, like we've seen in the Southern California model, ballot harvesting model. They have an opportunity to do it, and do it amazingly through primarily evangelical churches. Conservative evangelical churches are treasure troves for votes, but they don't necessarily go out to vote. They don't necessarily vote on election day, but they will vote in mass for the right if you ballot harvest. That's what we found with Republicans in Southern California who are winning in +4 Democrat districts. So if we have awesome ballot harvesting along with our amazing get out the vote election day game plan, we should rock and roll in Arizona and Georgia and Wisconsin. But if we don't, yeah, all bets are off. It's we're going to have to step up to the plate on that one. And that is it. I love you, gang. You're the best. Remember, check out my interview today with Ross. He is Ross Givens. He's amazing. We're going to be talking about BlackRock backtracking, surrendering on ESG and DEI programs because of the mass revolt of patriots. You're going to love it. That should be up around 1:30, 2 o'clock today. Gang, have a wonderful weekend. We've got a bunch of stuff on this channel going on. Remember, we don't go on vacation. We're always working here for you. Got a bunch of stuff going on. Amazing activities happening. Building a parallel civilization. Rocking and rolling for faith, family, and freedom. God bless, gang. Have a wonderful weekend.